Well, this is the question on everybody's lips. Let me say this. An SICC judgment is like a regular Singapore court judgment. It is enforceable in several ways, 4 ways. So let me say the first would be, it would be enforceable in respect of countries which have reciprocal arrangements with Singapore. And key jurisdictions across the globe do have reciprocal enforcement arrangements with Singapore. Australia, New Zealand, India, Pakistan, Malaysia, Brunei, UK, Hong Kong. All of them would have are countries which would be included in the first pot. Others included would be included as well, where we have reciprocal arrangements. So in those countries that I've just mentioned and others with reciprocal arrangements, no problem enforcing the SICC judgments. The second category would be countries that have ratified the choice of Hague, choice of court agreements, convention on the choice of court agreements. Currently we have about 30 countries that have ratified that convention, which would be all of the European Union, excluding Denmark. It would also include Mexico. The US, which is a major jurisdiction, has signed the convention, is expected to ratify the convention shortly. And so you would see that even just taking these first 2 pots into question, Europe, North America, Australasia, and the key jurisdictions in Asia would be covered by this in terms of enforceability. On top of that, we're fairly confident, given the kind of principles that civil law countries go by in terms of enforcing foreign court judgments, that there would be a high rate of enforcement in civil law countries as well as in common law countries in the usual way. What we do see is that as time goes on, the scope of enforceability of SICC judgments can only grow as more parties get into the UN Hague choice of court agreements structure, and as the reciprocal arrangements which are now being negotiated proliferate. But even without that, our sense is that the key jurisdictions are covered. This is a point perhaps that is often misunderstood by people generally. Of course, if you were to look at the enforceability of arbitral awards, there is no doubt that the arbitral awards today are enforced under the New York Convention in at least 156 countries. I think that number is going to become 157 when Angola, which is expected to ratify that convention soon, the New York Convention. And obviously, arbitral awards in that sense have a higher number. But for all practicalities, given that the major jurisdictions are covered, and that scope of the covered countries, even in the direct spectrum, are set to grow, one can only, I would only surmise that the prominence of the International Commercial Court, the Singapore International Commercial Court, can only grow in prominence and use. The international commercial courts, especially the Singapore International Commercial Court, is going to emerge as a very viable option in the resolution of such international commercial disputes, the kind that now typically would head to international arbitration. But we do believe that both the SICC and international arbitration under the auspices of the SIEC and other arbitral institutions around the world would coexist, because it would be horses for courses. Some parties would really want to stay out of court and have a private hearing. They'll go to arbitration. Some parties would say, whilst there is a very good bench in the SICC, because our dispute relates to nuclear technology or a very highly specialized field of industry, we want an industry specialist who is extremely familiar with this part of the dispute to be our adjudicator, and therefore they would want to pick somebody from the industry to be an arbitrator. And so in those circumstances, you can see that parties would, the obvious choice for parties would be the route of international arbitration. But in most cases, commercial international cases, our sense is that the growing influence of the Singapore International Commercial Court and the other commercial courts will be felt across the globe as we move ahead, and as the enforcement factor, people begin to realize that the enforcement factor is not really a significant divisive factor. My guess would be that you're going to begin to see the rise of the International Commercial Court, the Singapore International Commercial Court, as a very potent and significant force or presence in the arena of the resolution of international commercial disputes.
With over 650 fee earners in 10 countries, this is our home ground, our advantage. Lawyers who know Asia. Rajah and Tann, Asia.